Hi, good afternoon, students. This is Professor Capoletta, and I wanted to go over the informative persuasive speech prompt. So what I'm going to go ahead and do right now is do a share screen and show you how you can access that prompt. First thing off is the prompt was sent to your email. It went right to your inbox, but you can also find it in two other places. You can find it under the Announcements tab. It's right here. Or you can also find it right here on the left-hand sidebar. That's also where we have the course syllabus, the class Zoom link, the office hours link, and even your textbook here, which comes free with your tuition for my specific class. You're not paying for an additional textbook. You've got it right here. Now, the expectations thus far in this class before you've watched this video is that you've read the course syllabus, and then you've read the prompt, you've reviewed the videos that I sent out last week, and I actually, there's playlists that I have, but I tactically selected the specific ones that I want. Let me turn down my headphone volume a little bit. I've got super sensitive ears. Okay, so so I'm not like drowning my own self out. So you've read the syllabus, and then the second thing you've done is you've read the prompt that we're about to go over. You've read the textbook chapters, and then finally you've looked at the videos. And I was very selective in the videos I sent you so you wouldn't be overwhelmed. Most students get a robust playlist. By now, you should have done all of that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go over the prompt, and you know where to locate that. So let me go a little bit over the prompt. Okay, so let's do another share screen and click right there. Here we are. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on it right here. It takes you right to a Google document. It was introduced on 122. The documents were provided because on that first day we had a lecture about it, right? We went over all kinds of important aspects of it. There was the expectation that you were taking notes. Remember, my preference is that you handwrite out the notes, and I gave you a lot of examples of why that would be the case. But if you typed it up, that's great. At any regard, you should have been taking notes. The final outline, and I've pushed back the deadline for everybody. It really should have been due this coming Monday, but it will be due the following Monday. Now, if you're a student in the class that begins in February, I am talking directly to my class that started in January. The only aberration in your prompt will be these dates. Everything else holds true for this prompt for you. So just kind of take that, have that filed in the back of your head when I'm going through this lecture, and I'm about to keep moving. The speech presentations and colleague critiques will only be on 2 days, and we'll have a sign-up sheet. Those who go on the first day will receive extra credit. Make sure that you understand after this, there will be no makeups, because, and this is true for both classes, quite frankly, even though these dates will be different, both classes, it's fast and furious. My Wednesday night class, we meet one night a week, which means you're doing a lot of independent work on your own. And you signed up for this. We had that conversation. For my February class, even more so for you. We may be meeting 2 times a week, but it's a month less than this Monday night. Now, what I've done, this is something I've never done before, is I actually made you an index. So if you're looking for something specific, you don't have to scroll through this complete document. Let me see if I can close that up. There you go. So this is all indexed for you. So if you're wondering, what should my outline look like? Bam, I've got it right here for you. Or what is she talking about with these colleague critiques? I want to make it very clear that I've been teaching for over 33 years, and I always update my prompts. This year I did a major overhaul to make this super clear for you. It was very clear in the past, but since these are such fast and furious classes, I spent a lot of time on this. Let me see if I can pop up the can I make this zoom in a little bit more? There we go. Whenever you come into office hours and you show me your outline, and that's going to be a requirement for every student that I pre-grade this outline. So if you come in on this day to give your speech and I haven't seen your outline, that's going to be a red flag. I have a photographic memory and I build relationships with my students, helping them, and I'm going to know that you didn't do what I asked you to do. So office hours are required. So make sure that you come in for office hours. Now, and I've got all kinds of resources for you. Let's talk about the assignment breakdown. Evaluation of your performance. Let me just make sure I'm recording before I go through this whole. Yep, I am. Okay. I rarely will run a lecture and do the whole thing. And I haven't been recorded, but I really want it because I know this is going to be a long lecture. So the assignment breakdown. And remember, your professor, I mean, look how pretty this document is, y'all. I did this just for you. Okay, so the evaluation of your performance will consist of three things. The first is the full sentence outline and the works cited list. And part of that is you're going to attend a private conference with me, or it may be a situation with a group of students. And those are always super fun because the students come up with great ideas. One time I had a student who came in this group conference situation. It wasn't a one-on-one situation, and his topic, we were talking about trigger alerts. He needed example for, he's like, what can I do for my introduction, my attention getter? And so I asked his colleagues, I said, hey, what do y'all think? And one of his colleagues said, what was the first thing that came to mind when you came up with that topic? And he was like, I just came up with it. And his speech was one of the best I've ever seen. And they all helped him come up with a trigger alert. He had a very vivid introduction. It was just a brilliant speech. And so this is your opportunity. So when you come into my group conferences, make sure that your camera is on. Do not mute yourself unless you got to go and get a snack and make a smoothie or something like that. Just drop it in the chat. The expectation is in these group conferences is that you're there to engage, to help your colleagues. Or if you're there for a private conference, either way. If you attend, it's a +5 max, and this is contingent upon how prepared you are, how much work you have for me. And part of that consists of, did you watch the videos? Oh, I'm still drowning myself out. Hold on, y'all. Just a second. And it's funny because the dial on this, when I turn it one way, the way that you would think it would lower the volume, it's actually the opposite. So it's like counterproductive. So the expectation is that you've read that chapter from the textbook or the chapters. The expectations, you've looked at those examples, you've read my prompt and watched this video. So make sure you've done that, because I'll know if you haven't done it, and so will your colleagues. Meet the hard deadline of the workshop. If you show up for this workshop day, and remember that dates are going to be a little bit different if you're in my February class, my Monday, Wednesday, February classes during the day, it's going to start off with a 70. That's the highest grade you can receive if you do not. And here's the reason why. In the years past, I had two different deadlines. Just basically, people would show up and they would give their speech, and they would give me a hard copy of the outline. But what would happen is the people who did not have their outlines done, some of them were literally writing the outlines on the last day of the speeches during their colleague speeches when they were supposed to have been writing critiques. And that's not fair. It's not fair to my students who come in. Maybe for my Monday night class, some of you are going to have your outlines done. And you know my philosophy of rewarding people who are studious and get their work done and beat my deadlines, who have outstanding time management skills. So in fairness, or quote unquote equity, we want to make sure that everybody turns in their outline bare minimum during that workshop time. Now, there is no limit. You can come in and I'll help you. But if there's several people, I cannot spend an hour with one person. So please be polite to the needs of your colleagues. Come in with your questions written out. Have something to show me. And be very cognizant of others' needs. There's something that you guys will quickly find out about me, is I do not like to waste my students' time. That's why if there's ever an emergency, make sure you always check your email before class. I never cancel class. And so if there's an emergency, if something happens, you're going to get an email from me. If you don't hear from me, you should be really concerned about your professor, because I'm very polite and cognizant of, and that's why I'm so into people showing up on time to my class. So you're going to have a full sentence outline. You're going to have a works cited list. You're going to include your brain dump, whether that's a brain dump is basically how did you brainstorm that speech? Did you have an audio file? Sometimes when I write speeches, I grab my phone, I pull up my audio notes, and I start talking into it because these ideas come to me. I give between 1 and 7 speeches a week on Zoom with City Council. I gave 2 on Thursday, 2 on Friday, and I also do questions and answer session from the press and public, something I fought very hard for to be written in our charter, and there was some shenanigans that they tried to take it out, the elected officials, and I dropped the dime on them and the city staff with the Attorney General's office, and I ended up getting my way. So I have very strong commitment to free speech rights, and so sometimes I'll take my phone and I'll like come up with all my ideas. Sometimes I'll take out my camera, my video camera. Other times I have just a scratch piece of paper. Sometimes things come to me in the middle of making like a stir fry, and I'll grab some sort of just scrap of paper. Sometimes I open up, they call it notes on the Mac. Other times I'll open up my Google Doc. I have a myriad of ways that I do a brain dump, and then I write my outline. I've been doing this so long, sometimes my outlines are written the night before. A lot of times I write them very quickly because I've given thousands of speeches. And for me specifically, sometimes, and this is not going to apply to you, I'll tell you that right now. But the ones I write in 3 minutes are sometimes my best because I'm not over prepared. However, what I've noticed for students who haven't given, and I may have hit the 10,000 mark on the number of speeches I've given, is that the more prepared you are, the more we're going to be able to tell. Now, for my students who are highly verbal, use those techniques that I talked about, the video or the audio notes. Talk it out with a friend. I used to have a debate partner, and it was like, remember the scene from Forrest Gump when he's like gumbo shrimp, barbecue shrimp? This is how my friend was. He was so smart, and all he would do is ever talk about our debate cases, just constantly. But he liked to have that discussion, that Socratic discussion, because it allowed him to flesh out his arguments. So it may help you to have a conversation with someone to brainstorm your topic. Other people are very visual, and they like to hand write it out. I would and just take a photo of it, include it, and I may use it. There are some examples of brain dumps. There's one on, I think it was like Marvel Comics that a guy wrote, and you look at it, you're like, golly, this guy, look at his handwriting, which probably looks like mine. And then you see his outline, you're like, whoa, this guy took this weird looking brain dump and look what he did with it. Some of you may have one of those little things for your iPad. You can use that too. List of dates that you met with the instructor, what you're going to do. And I'm going to just say, hey, go ahead and mark down those dates. I'm not going to repeat myself every time I meet with a student in conference, because this is one of those updates. So I made these updates on my assignment sheet, so I didn't have to keep repeating myself, taking time away from students who are waiting for me. So make sure every time you come in, you go below your works cited list or anywhere you want to make the notes, but the final rendition, when you turn in that outline to me, below your works cited list or your bibliography, you are going to have, every time you have met with me, the date, and from 9 a.m. Well, with my night class, it may be from like 6 to 6:15, right, or 6 to 6:30. It depends how many students are there, and do that. And I may ask you to write some notes. You may come in. Let's say someone comes in this coming Monday at 6:30. And I look at that outline and it's perfect. I'll have you write something very colorful. I'll say, came in on whatever the date is. You're going to put the date from 6 to 6:15. Picture perfect outline. I've got this really cool pop screen. I should use it. Look, I've got one of these. I should use this thing. See, that's why they call it a pop screen. But it's always like there around and whatever. So So I have to thank a student. I finally figured out how to set my microphone up together, and he was telling me to buy the Scarlett. And then I realized I've got this recorder sampler that has even more functionality of that Scarlett. And I realized I had this microphone, so I upgraded the OS on my Zoom R8 recorder sampler interface controller. And then I upgraded the OS on my little MacBook Air. And then I had all the cables, and I'm a ham radio operator, so everything I have is with what do they call that? Hook and loop. What's the other word they call it? Another word for hook and loop is Velcro. So if you could see my control center, all my wires are very neatly in little circles when they're all like Velcro to the thing. It looks really cool. I'll have to send you a picture sometime of it. So I may say picture perfect outline +5. You may come in and just ask me some questions, and I'll be like, okay, thanks for coming in. 1 point. Make sure you come in to show me your outline. Do not give that speech until I've given you all systems go, because here's what's going to happen. I'm going to write a 1 by your name in the grade book. I'm going to type that in. I used to write it in back in the day when I used a handwritten notebook, grade book. I'm going to write a 1 by your name, or type in a 1 by your name, and I'm not going to upgrade that grade until you come in for office hours. And when you come in for office hours, you'll show me your updated outline, and then I'll immediately type in your updated grade. I am not going to put a 40 by your name. I don't want your feelings hurt. I don't want you stressed out and having anxiety. I've already told you from day one, it's to our benefit for all of you to master my discipline. And I've written a pedagogical, which is the art of teaching philosophy of total mastery learning. It's my philosophy as a professor that you should master what I'm teaching you. I do not grade on a bell curve. If you have to redo your speech 5 times, you're going to redo your speech 5 times till you make 100. And I'll reward you for coming in. So, but if you want to knock it out, and I'll be like, yeah, +5. The second thing is 20 points is your presentation. This is you're standing up on camera. Okay, and we can hear you, and then you're going to have a digital visual aid. Now, I highly recommend against using iPads for this very reason. If you're going to share screen on an iPad, or do not use a cell phone to be in my class. This is a virtual class, so make sure you have some sort of device where you can share a screen and also be in Google Docs and be on camera. It's oftentimes problematic with some of these devices to share your PowerPoint or your Prezi or your Google Slides. I do not recommend Keynote. Every time I recommended to a colleague going to a conference back in the day when I was an academic advisor, I said, don't use Keynote. You're going to be disappointed. They didn't listen to me. Then they came back from the conference. They're like, oh, that was a disaster. I said, I told you, use PowerPoint or Prezi. I had a student last semester. She was brilliant. She had her Prezi where it was situated where she was at the bottom of the screen. Her Prezi was up there. She could do a full screen where you couldn't see her, but kind of see her in the background. It was just really cool. I had other people with a big screen TV behind them where you really could see, and this is where you need to do some technology check, where you could see the visual aid and them. And so if you're going to do a screen share, make sure we can see you while you're giving the presentation, right? Because that visual aid is to help accentuate the arguments you're making, to clarify and spark some interest. -5 points if it's not digital. Now, I'm a ham radio operator. You guys know that. I'm learning Morse code. Here is one of my custom keys. Isn't this gorgeous? Absolutely gorgeous. And if I was going to do a visual aid, that would be called a physical object, right? And I would be like, right? Or here's CQ. This is like calling all people. Let's see. That's CQ, like calling all people. I have another one here. That's a side swiper. Here's another one. What? Wait. I'll have to pick that one up and show you later. I've got all these cords, and once again, I've got all my Velcro here, and I'm super like ADD. Everything has to be perfect. One time someone came over and they're like, Lisa, your house is the most organized house. I have never seen such organized closets. I said, because I'm the most ADD person you know, and I get stressed out when I'm not organized. So if you're ADD like me, or if you have a learning disability like me, be organized. It's going to take you more work to get your work done, and I've got a reading disability. I've got multiple disabilities, quite frankly, and I got to work twice as hard, twice as long, and sometimes twice as fast to keep up with everybody else. But you know what? At the end of the day, I've mastered that material. And so that's just what you got to do. So anyway, if you're a drummer or musician, you would do really good at Morse code, by the way. We call it CW in the ham radio world. So minus 5 points if it's not a digital visual aid. That Morse code key that I just showed you, that a custom made one just for me, that's a physical object. You can use one, but you also need some sort of digital visual aid. What would that look like? Well, if you want to sit, like the other day, I gave a speech. Let me see if I've got anything sassy that I put. Well, I think I've showed you. Well, here's one of my ham radio infrastructure ideas about how to use. Let's see, can I cover it up? So I made this whole thing for the city of San Marcos, and sometimes it's resized or whatever. Sometimes I'll be like, yeah, you guys want to spend all this money on bike lanes, but look at this trip and fall hazard that I hit while I was on my way to go buy my vegetables at the city hall. Let's see, where's another one? So that would be, so you may want to start off with something like this, and then here's me be like, here's my tree roots that you butchered. So you can do that, and you could be switching while you're talking. There are my Bengali keys, y'all. Those are the ones I was just playing with. The two on the right, those are from Italy. I wish the one on the right, you could actually see the turtle finishing that they did. And so those are two of my custom keys. I've got a couple other ones that were also custom ordered, but they're not as pretty as these. So let me get back to my background. Okay, so you can do that. You can use a PowerPoint, you can use a Prezi, Google Slides, and remember, I recommend you don't use Keynote. And then you're going to do colleague critiques. You're going to write 5 bulleted points. Am I share screen? Yes, I am. You're going to write 5 bulleted points and drop them in the chat. And don't just say nice job. Say, I really enjoyed your topic selection. It really was aligned with your personality. Or I never thought about how effective intermittent fasting could be for my health. I'm going to share this with my friends and family. Or I loved that piece of research that you cited. I noticed it was from 2024. Great job on recency of evidence. You picked a recent source. If you create a wimpy like 5 bulleted points, and it could be a paragraph of 5 ideas, or some people will skip spaces, and there is the bullet function in the chat that you can use, and there you could put emoticons and all kinds of stuff, so you can play with it next class. I'm going to say, hey, I am noticing that people are not writing robust. Some people write really good comments, to the point where I'm like, you need to be a teacher, like or you would be a wonderful supervisor writing evaluations of your underlings. And then the class, these should be super positive. I'm the professor. And when you get your master's degree or your PhD, you can write whatever you want, but I like to be very affirming. I like students to be very affirming of each other. Now, if they're going, you might want to say, hey, did you notice there was a lot of fluency breaks? A really nice way to correct the situation is to work on your vocal variety or to focus on your body movement. And that really is the case. One time I had a boss, y'all. This boss would always say, every 5 minutes. And I record every speech I give on my cell phone. I listen to it when I'm done and I critique myself. I noticed I started going, And so I was like, this is not good. Like, I'm doing this on live TV. And I'm a trained public speaker, and it was just something that got in my head. So I started focusing on my vocal variety, and I immediately corrected it. It can be corrected. So here's the assignment overview. This assignment calls upon the student to deliver an informative or a persuasive speech organizational pattern. Work to decrease semantic noise with definitions. Semantic noise is if you're using a highly specialized term. So if I start talking about dipole antennas and SWR readings, you're going to be like, what is she talking about? I bet that's ham radio, that ham radio dorky stuff she's into. And I would have to define what standing wave ratio is or what a dipole antenna is before I proceeded. Now, if I'm giving a ham radio club presentation, I would not need to give those operational definitions. So sometimes it's contingent upon your audience. Vivid examples and statistical support. Some people love stories. You can give a story about one person that's very detailed, or you can give a story about a lot of different people. And then you've got statistical support. You can use a bar graph, a pie chart. You can just use rattle off a bunch of data. I remember one of the most vivid examples I ever received was from a student who walked up to the top of the class, the front of the class, had a board. And I'm thinking, what is she doing? And I need to look at the outline. This is one of the students who didn't give me the outline till the day they were speaking. This is back when I was in the classroom, and I was like, didn't get your outline. This is going to be, and every once in a while, a student will prove me wrong. Now it's a hardcore policy that I have. Well, she really did a good job. And she's like, the space of this board is the space of where I used to live in my car. And then she went through this whole story about how she was homeless. It was a fascinating speech. And she turned her life around, just so you know the outcome. But it was like we got the full, vivid example of what her life was. Students are provided with examples of exemplary, right? In other words, just totally awesome past student work for written assignment requirements. Be sure to review these examples and common pitfalls from lectures. If you have not looked at those example outlines of A speeches, because remember, 70 points of your grade is that, then I will know. I will know if I get an essay from you or a piece of, or a document with a bunch of bullets but not full sentences, or if I get a PowerPoint and no outline, you will fail that assignment and you will have to keep redoing it until you get it right. So just do it right the first time, y'all. Learn. Listen, y'all. I just told you I've given 10,000 speeches. I'm a master. I think it takes. I think it's 10,000 hours. So if you played piano 10,000 hours, yo, you're a master. It is required to attend at least one student instructor conference. Now, I'm going to note on your outline what you need to do, and I'm going to tell you what you need to do, and it's up to you. And sometimes I'll tell a student, they'll come in, and I'll say, hey, this is a really good start. I think, did you kind of throw this together a little bit before the conference? Like, yes. I'll say, okay, great. Thank you for being honest. It looks like your speech is only 3 minutes, so please make sure that you add some additional subpoints or some additional evidence or additional main points with subpoints. This is only 3 minutes, and the minimum is 5 to 7 minutes. And they come in, they didn't do it, and how long do you think that speech was? That's right. It was only 3 minutes. So just please follow my instructions. I want you to do well in my class. So the class scheduled workshop, here are your options. We have a workshop in class. You can come in prior to the workshop for office hours. You can come in prior to the workshop in a schedule, right? I've got scheduled office hours where you make an appointment at least 24 hours before that time, or if the class needs extended office hours. And that's by class vote when we're going to do that. It's also required to participate in colleague critiques of full sentence outlines. These sessions are valuable for building an audience-centered presentation. So in other words, on that workshop day, you guys are going to grade each other's outlines. You're going to pre-grade them. If someone may have the whole outline done and then they just can't come up with the introduction, please make a note. You write the introduction last. You write your main points first with all the subpoints in all your research. You finish the body of your speech first. Then you're going to write your introduction and conclusion. And the rationale is you don't know what you're going to introduce until you have finished that outline, okay? Make corrections and take notes during student conference and ensure that those speech Make corrections and take notes during student instructor conferences and colleague critique sessions, right? So when you're talking to one to me, or when you're working with your colleagues, to ensure that the corrections to speech are accurately completed. So in other words, when I give you some pointers or some corrections, or when your colleagues catch that you only have 2 sources when you need 3, make sure you make those corrections because they want you to do well too. If you don't, then that's something you're going to have to do. Now, here is a link to a brain dump technique of preparation. I'm going to let you do that on your own. I'm trying to get through this, and some of this stuff you guys can do on your own. You can kind of check it out, but this is just for those of you who haven't come up with a topic. As you research, organize your information, draft, rehearse, and present your speech, you should keep in mind the elements discussed in lecture and text regarding audience adaptation organizational patterns, delivery styles, and supporting materials. So you have all of these assets to your disposal to help you craft that presentation. When beginning this assignment, begin with the initial brainstorm and then allow your research to drive the speech. Now, I gave y'all a long story about how back in the day when I was a little debater and I was a student at Southwest Texas State University, I'd walk into the library, I'd go to the card catalog, I'd write down some letters and numbers, I'd have to go to the elevators, find the floor where those letters and the call number was located, locate the shelf where the books are, and then go, and I'm dyslexic, right? So find the right number, right? It's like, so if you don't like numbers, it was kind of a pain. I was really good at it though, y'all, because I would find other books that were relevant. It was almost like the books would fall off the shelves and hit me on the head. And like, oh, there's a better book than the one I looked up. Or I would have to walk through all those aisles for the magazines. Then I'd have to go to the microfiche. And there was another one, I can't remember what it was called. It was like on a spool. And those were like big things. It was really expensive, like 50 cents a sheet. Then I'd spend like, I don't know, 10 to 15 cents to make the photocopies. Now, it's a quick fix for you guys to do the research. Don't just pick the first thing you want. Find some stuff that has recent evidence from a credible source, and you're going to cite that author's name and their credibility and where that information came from, what kind of magazine or periodical it is, the website, and what the website does and the date. So make sure that you do that. Extra credit, if you want to make a survey for your colleagues, I will add 5 points. You can make a survey. You can do that in Google. If you don't know how to do it, do a little bit of YouTube research, send me the link and I'll send it out a dump of them, of everybody's stuff. Just so you know, when I use the word dump, that's an old debate term. We called an argument dump. So if they had like argument 1, I would do an argument dump of like 10 arguments against their argument. So it's a common word. I was so proud of myself how I got that to lay out like that. So these are your organizational patterns, and this is all from the videos. You could do a topical, a spatial, or a chronological organizational pattern. This is in the video I've already sent you, so I'm not going to review something I've already put out in a video that's in your textbook. Or you can do the topical, the problem solution, or the Monroe motivated sequence. I want to be really honest. I did not like this organizational pattern when I was a student. It was very confusing to me. I have found over the years, and I used to only teach this to my advanced public speaking classes, my public speaking 2 back in the day when I was at University of North Carolina at Charlotte, and they had that class. My students were so good at using this, I started using it for my intro classes. And then I would lecture on it, and either things are going to go really bad with this outline or you're going to nail it. Just it's going to be knocked out of the park. And since the pandemic, students will come in and I'll be like, this is perfect. How did you know how to do this so perfect? I've been teaching this outline for 3 decades, and it's either goes bad or it really goes good. They're like, oh, I watched your video. And I'm like, well, thank you for watching my video, and thank you. This is really good. So it depends. If you like put the square in the square, the circle in the circle, you're going to like this outline. It's a template, but make sure you watch the video and you read the instructions. So if you like models, then read the instructions and watch the video, or you're going to have to completely redo it. All right, you're going to have to change your organizational pattern. It's just going to be a real for you. The Monroe, and I even make that caveat here. Monroe motivated sequence is a risky organizational pattern. Do not attempt to utilize this organizational pattern until you have reviewed the video lecture material. 70 points, full sentence outline, and works cited list. Let me just show you how this works. So if you click on this, it's going to take you right to it. Okay, so I just wanted to show you how that functions. All students will turn in the full sentence outline, the works cited list, complete one instructor conference prior to speaking day. Okay, and I think I should probably, and then I would like for you to have your brain dump in there. Oh, here it is right here. So I've got it noted, but I'm not going to make any changes. Sometimes I'll make changes in real time on my recordings. I'm going to refrain from that because I put in about 12 hours trying to really update this prompt for you. And I'm just going to leave well enough alone. I just started baking, y'all. and I'm a stir fry lady, okay? Or I make really good enchiladas. I don't eat eggs anymore. I used to make really good omelets. And my mom had to explain to me, Lisa, my mom calls me Lisa. She doesn't call me LMC. She said, Lisa, it's not like art. You're very artistic. You have to follow the recipe. Your sister says baking is a science, cooking is an art. So, 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 um, I don't even know how I got off into that, but whatever. You can complete the loop to however I got onto that. So just follow, follow the template when it comes to the Monroe, and I'm just going to leave this well enough alone. So make sure that you email your final outline on the day prior on the day of class prior to class. If you are scheduled, let's say let's go up to the top. If you're scheduled to go on, let's say you're scheduled to go on this day and you have a documented emergency and you email me like that morning, okay? And then you go on this day, you're still going to re-email me that outline on this day before class. And here's the reason why. You may have made some updates to your outline, and we want to confirm that I'm not grading this rendition of your outline, but I'm grading this rendition of your outline. All right. And I'm going to ask you to do that. And if you say, I've already sent it to you, then I'm going to know you didn't watch this video. Okay. So let's go back to my cool little thing. I've never had one of these in my assignments, y'all. So so I'm going to knock off 5 points of you, because then it also means I'm going to have to hold up the class. So I'm going to say, hey, so-and-so, I need your outline, or you people are trying to put final touches on their outline. You shouldn't be doing that. You should be practicing your outline before class, not finding 2 more sources. That's very poor form, especially for public speaking. We don't want to do that in the public speaking world. Topic outlines, in other words, if you just throw out some keyword outlines, it's not a full sentence, or a manuscript speech, like in other words, it's an essay, your grade will begin with a 65. That's just out of the gate. That's not all these other deductions. A full sentence outline contains complete sentences in each main point or subpoint. Sentences are tags, known as sound bites. So in other words, I do a lot of interviews with the press, whether it's on radio, TV. Sometimes I've done like live debates as a political candidate, and sometimes I'll even have like my haters, and they'll try to stump me, or they'll come up with a lie and try to embarrass me, and it never goes well for them, because I'm prepared and I have my tags and I have my sound bites. I've thought through my arguments and I know exactly what I'm going to say, and I'm going to stick to the script. Or sometimes if I need to go off of the script, I've got other sound bites as well. Usually I have more information than what I'm allotted, my time allotment is, in case I need my backup, right? My second line is what I call it in debate. We call it our second line research. So do I have any salad on me? I hope not. I just made a big salad. I hope I'm not like sitting here talking with you guys with lettuce on me. Okay, so, or radishes. I had some really good radishes. If you have a Roman numeral 2 with an A, there needs to be a B. Okay, so if I'm giving an outline on best ingredients for a salad, and Roman numeral 1 is the lettuce, and maybe subpoint A is romaine lettuce, subpoint B is kale, subpoint C is the spicy mix. That's what I buy, is the spicy mix. If I just had spicy mix but no romaine, that's what I'm talking about. You need to have at least 2 subpoints. If I have a little 1, so if I talk about spicy mix, maybe subpoint C, so Roman numeral 1 is the lettuce, okay? Subpoint A is romaine. Subpoint B is kale. Subpoint C is spicy mix. Under spicy mix, I may have 3 different types of, because that's what I do. I buy a big bundle, and he's got all these little spicy mix types of lettuce in there, whatever it's called. And oh, it's so good. And I would tell you what each one of those are. Okay. So if subpoint B is vegetables, I may have carrots as subpoint A, and different type, and talk about why carrots are good, and maybe radishes. That's what I put in. And then maybe subpoint 3 is fruit. I always put apples in my salads. So I make big salads. Well, it's funny, y'all, when you get to be old like me, you're going to notice I used to never like a salad when I was 20. And then when you're 55, 56, you're like, I love salads. So you're going to be like, Professor LMC was right. So I'm going to knock off 3 points if you don't follow these instructions, because this is just exemplar outlining, and I want to make sure you do that. Think about each topic is like a bin. I was so learning disabled when I would read back in the day, I would have to put my stuff in physical stacks, and I would grab the stack of this topic and read it. My friend and I were joking about this because you remember when I used to read your textbooks to you? I'm like, yeah, that was before we had accommodations. And so she would read. I was on debate scholarship, so I could hyper focus, right? I could read like military research and hyper focus. So I think it was probably being on the spectrum kind of situation or the way that they were writing. I don't know what it was, but I've learned since then how to hyper focus. All speeches will have the following in the introduction, with the exception of the Monroe. Attention getter, and you're going to know this when you look at the outline, statement of credibility, pointing, and preview. And those are in my lectures, the one I'm in front of, the river. So if you give me an attention getter and a credibility statement, then I don't have these two, that's -4 points because these two also need to be in there, okay? All speeches should have the following, a review of main points and a memorable closing. And remember, it should be the Monroe. I really should make a correction to this, but I don't, and it looks like I'm in a different account. Am I? It doesn't even look like I'm signed in. So whatever, maybe I'll make the corrections later, but just keep in mind, this is not the Monroe. Think of the Monroe. No, I'm not going to make the corrections because you guys should know. I probably will. I before E, except after C. The except after C is the Monroe, and you'll know that when you watch it. So if you're not doing the Monroe, don't worry about it. All speeches should have signposts and transitions. Now that I've talked about lettuce, let's move on to vegetables that you can put in your salad. My second main point is the types of vegetables that people often use when making a salad. That was a complete sentence. It wasn't vegetables. If I just put vegetables, that's a topic keyword outline. It's forcing me as the speaker to think on the fly what I'm going to say. And I want to say something. I've given over 10,000 speeches, and even today, when I give a speech, I write out a full outline. Okay, so if I'm doing it, you can do it. All outlines must be pre-approved by the workshop deadline. All students will have the same deadline for rough drafts, and I already explained why. I gave you those examples. Students who do not have a final rough draft by the deadline, 70 is the highest grade that can be achieved. Speeches will require 3 source citations. Full source citations must be attributed on the outline and verbally in the presentation. And I've got a resource for you here. If you are not sure what that means, check on this checklist and you will see what I'm talking about. And I've literally taken examples from past student speeches and I've given you options. I am not normatively saying you must do it exactly this way. People have different ways they like to do it. Some people like to bold the author's name, the qualifications, the publication, the nature of the publication, the date. Some people like to underline it and then bold the quote, but you'll literally say, according to Professor Capoletta, who is a professor at Austin Community College, as written in the SACS Journal, the SACS Journal, SACS, I'm just making that up, SACS Accreditation, that's the accreditation agency, I'm just making this up, is the journal that guides how assignments should look, which is, they actually guide the policies for like the expectations for credentials for universities. She tells us in January of 2024. So that would be an example quote. And then you would read my quote and then you would say end quote. You're literally going to say quote, end quote. If you want to write that out in your outline, you can do that. And let me just pull this. You're going to read all this, okay? You can go over that. I'm not going to read this to you. But see how he says, this is what the National Aeronautics Space Administration had to say about the end of the Mayan calendar and beyond. He says, quote, end quote. Okay, this person, and so this person said, see, and I give you little examples of how they do it. Let me see this. There's an example of introduction of the argument. So I kind of give you different examples of how this works. Notice here, they give one color for the little how they're going to cite it, then they go quote unquote, and the actual quote is in a different color. So whatever your brain likes, do it. This one has it in different colors, so I've kind of given you some different examples. This is like a visual aid to make sure that you've kind of looked at before you turn in your stuff to me. Now so So all sources should be in line. In other words, in your outline, you're going to have the source citation information, which is this information, and your quote. Do not use an endnote. Do not say, well, the source information is at the bottom of the page. This would be an incorrect statement because in the world of public speaking, we actually cite the name of the person, their credentials, and the publication, what the publication does and date verbally, because our audience, they don't have that manuscript, right? If it's a manuscript speech or that full sentence outline in front of them. So we have to literally say where it came from. So do not use endnotes. If you use endnotes or a parenthetical citation, I'm going to say, did you watch that video I made for you guys on my Saturday when I could have been making those enchiladas that are, I have some mushrooms and some onions and some habaneros and some jalapenos and a little bit of squash sitting there waiting for me. But I care about you guys so much, I made you this video. So I'm be like, did you not watch that video? In public speaking, the audience does not have the document in front of them, and they to flip to the bottom of the page to see the works cited. It's not like your other professors and other disciplines. Be sure to attribute the sources of any data, stories, explanatory information referenced in the assignments. Anything not from your brain, you need to cite. Do not, please write this down, do not paraphrase in my class. Anything you do, just use it as a quote mark. Okay, you can have quote, you can have 5 quotes, 10 quotes, I don't care. Do not paraphrase. I am highly skilled as a public policy researcher and former national debate competition and coaching and debating, detecting, and in other words, I'm highly skilled as a public policy researcher, and I should say an individual gives weekly speeches in a former national debate former national debate competition and coach. I should have said competitor. Whatever. I'm trying to not make these corrections, and coach at detecting plagiarism and the use of artificial intelligence. Notice how I have intelligence in quotes. If you use AI, I'm going to know it. In fact, I had one person give me an apology for using AI, and I know they used AI to do it. And I'm like, listen, I'm like the Obi-Wan Kenobi of detecting plagiarism. I will know before you even open up that outline, show me that you've done it. This is my skill. So just like athletes know if someone's using steroids, I'm going to know if you're using AI. And I'm going to know if you're plagiarizing. You will not get that by me. Just know. So please don't do it. All right. And you're robbing yourself, because at some point in your career, you're going to have to give that speech. And the people who you give the sales presentation to, or your boss, they're going to know you're using AI, and they're going to know you plagiarized it. Just learn the skill now. It's like if you're going to learn how to play the piano, you don't want to use one of those digital things and just hit a thing and it plays the song for you. That's what you're doing. Like if I want to go Camptown races, blah, 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 all the live long day, whatever that was, doo-dah, doo-dah. I'm not going to hit a button on the little MIDI thing, right? The musicians know what a MIDI is, or a little keyboard, electric keyboard, and go races, doo-dah, all the doo-dah day. I didn't learn how to play Camptown races. Now, if I have an old piano in my house, anybody want a piano? I've got a antique piano. You can have it. It's beautiful, but I don't want it. I should have learned how to play it. It was here when I got here, and so I should learn how to play Camptown races, learn how to either do it like anybody who plays a guitar, know use guitar tab. I should learn how to do it visually, or learn how to read the notes, okay? Or get a teacher to teach me how to do it. And if you just hit the button, you're basically doing Camptown races by cheating because you're not playing Camptown races. It'd be like you pretending. It's like Milli Vanilli. Don't be Milli Vanilli, okay? So one time I used Milli Vanilli as an example for how the city staff were pretending to do something, and everybody almost spit out their coffee in the middle of my speech. And I had the guys, and I went, girl, you know it's true. Ooh, ooh, ooh. And they all started singing along. It was so funny. So okay, so copied and pasting without attribution of where you obtain that information is plagiarism. Do not paraphrase research in this class. All outside resources should be directly quoted. There's the checklist. Be sure to reference this critical resource. -5 points in which citations are not orally cited in this class. So if you give me a quote, this is what this means. If you give me a quote and you don't tell me where you got it from, or you don't say quote unquote, I'm knocking off 5 points. Okay. And there's no redo of the presentation this class. The outline you can fix. So get it right the first time. And some people will come in 3 times. Some people, it's out of the gate, it's perfect. Other people, they'll come in 3 or 4 times before their day. And so works cited list, the works cited list, if you don't have it, it's minus 5 points. If it's just a list of links, it's minus 5 points. Back in the day, I would have to go buy a $75 book. I would have to look it up, figure out this is a book. What is the page in this little Chicago style manual? And I'd have to type it on my typewriter. Now, all you guys got to do is copy and paste that information into a source citation generator, copy it, and put it in your works cited list. You've got it easy, y'all. So do it right the first time. So brain dump, be sure to attach some verification of your brain dump brainstorming. This can be a photo of your initial thoughts of a spiral notebook, something you typed in Google, or even an audio recording of your key ideas. All speakers have a very unique way of doing that. Some people can open up a little spiral and literally write the speech out in stream of consciousness. I don't know how they do that. I don't even write my essays, like my political hit pieces that way. I've got to have like an outline. 20 points for the presentation in the digital multimedia. And I gave you the example of a physical object, that Morse code key. Speaker order. We will have a sign-up sheet in Google Documents for each specific day of speakers. All speakers will deliver their presentation on the days outlined in the sign-up sheet. A volunteer system will determine the order of the speakers on that day. So in other words, if you volunteer to go on the first day, it's on the sign-up sheet. It's going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. If you're speaker 12, you can be the first speaker on day 1. You don't have to wait to the very end of class. Because sometimes someone may give a speech on intermittent fasting and you're like, oh, I got a speech on gluten-free lifestyle, and they're like, I'm going to go next, and it kind of threads a continuity, and they may even reference the other speaker, and I always give extra credit for that. That's like you on the fly now, right? And then the next speaker may talk about a vegan lifestyle, and then they would be like, so-and-so talked about intermittent fasting, so-and-so talked about a gluten-free, I'm here to talk about a vegan lifestyle. And then I'm like, whoa, way to go. So they'll like literally make that change, and you can do that. I'm not going to count off because it's not the same outline. You did that on the fly. That's great. All final drafts of full sentence outlines work of the full sentence outline, the works cited list, and the visual aids should be sent on the day of your presentation, 1 hour before class. Now, if you know you're going to be on the road and you want to send it a couple hours before class or that morning, my night class, fine. My AM class that starts in February, make sure you get it to me, because when I start class and those aren't in my inbox and I'll look at the timestamp, I'm going to count off, because it takes time away from the class for me to have to wait for people to send that outline. Sometimes people have a connection issue in the middle of class. So don't be that student, because I will dock off 5 points, because it tends to suck about 20 minutes outside of my class if I don't have that policy. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of updated this prompt is to kind of consolidate some things in certain sections and to add those sorts of they weren't necessarily oversights, more of pain points of my class that would literally take time away from students ready to speak. If you want to dress up, plus 3 points. If you have some sort of wardrobe modification aligned with your speech, plus 3 points. So in other words, one time I had this lady, she gave a speech on why you should do organic and not GMOs. And she had like a farm girl outfit. It was super cute. She had like a cool farm girl shirt, farm girl belt buckle, pressed jeans. And I gave her extra credit. I thought, you look cool. You look like a farm woman who's like, so the same thing like for a politician, right? If you're going to speak to a group of ranchers, you're probably not going to show up in a Brooks Brothers 3-piece suit. You're probably going to want to show up with something a little less dressy, or you're just going to look out of place. On the other hand, if you're giving a speech to a group of bankers, and I did this as a candidate, one time, y'all, I went to go meet with the business community, and I have no hair skills. Okay, I'm like a hair straightener. Any of the ladies out there who know how to straighten your hair, you are so lucky. I just put mine up in a bun, it dries, it gets curly, and I'm good to go. All right. Sometimes I've got a whole myriad of different hats, fedoras from my father that I inherited. I'm the only one in the family who's got his same head size, and they're gorgeous and handmade for my father. Okay, so I'll throw a hat on, right? And I got a bunch of ball caps that I like, or beanies. Well, the one time I needed my hair straightened perfect for the business community, the city had a problem with the water and they cut off all the water all over town. And I go to I'm all ready, right? I'm never late. I'm gonna nail this, and I did. I did a really good job, by the way. It ended up working out good, but the salon was closed, and I'm like, no, in the front at the front door. I'm like, what is going on? I'm texting the owner. I'm like, what is going on? What is going on? And he's like, we had to shut down because they're. And I'm like, did the city do this on purpose? So, but I was planned to have my hair straightened just for them, and I had my outfit and everything, and so and I had my little. If you ever look, I think I may have showed you the logo. I had those like shoes with the buckles. I would wear those shoes, those boots that go up to my knees with the buckles. I had two different a pair of black ones and a pair of Cordova ones. I always wore those. That was part of my logo. So I had this continuity. So you need to think that way, right? So think about what would be congruent with your speech. Some people get so dressed up, and it's just always fun to see how people get dressed up for that assignment. Your speech is 5 to 7 minutes. Anything over or under the 5 to 7 minutes, it's a -5 points. So if you speak for 3 minutes, let's say you speak for 4 minutes, okay, that's -10 points. If you speak for 8 minutes, it's also -10 points. Now, if you're a fast talker like me and you speak for 4:45, I'm probably not going to count off. I'll be honest, because some people have different rates if you're a fast talker. And sometimes I get some fast talkers. Speaking notes. You may use your discretion reading the type of speaking type of regarding that I was going to say reading regarding the type of speaking notes utilized for the oral presentation portion of this assignment. If you want to print out your full sentence outline, that's what I used to do when I would go to City Hall before Zoom. I do everything on Zoom now. Go for it. If you want to use note cards, go for it. If you want to use a digital device, so maybe you're going to use like your laptop and then you've got your cell phone and you're going to use your cell phone, go for it. It's kind of the size of a note card, but you make sure that you're navigating it. Some people will use like an iPad on like a their own unique way of making a podium, and then that will be their speaking notes, and then they'll have their another device as their camera. So some people will actually have the outline broadcasted off on a big screen TV on camera behind them. So they'll have a big screen TV. They have some sort of cable that they use, HDMI maybe as it's called, and they could see it behind them, and it's so credible. But do all that technology work through. Do not hold up this class trying to do something. You should have already logged into your own Zoom account and practiced this. And the ones who do this, they do this. Like, it's an expectation that you're doing a dry run dress rehearsal for your technology requirements of this speech. Reading from your outline lowers credibility and decreases opportunities to enhance speaker audience connection. So you should not be sitting there and reading. Now, with the quote, you could say and quote, like I'm doing right now, right? I'm reading to you. You can tell I'm reading to you, and then I'm looking up. Did you guys know, like, sometimes I'll just like literally look right into that little whatever the camera is, and sometimes I'm looking here, right? So please make sure that you're not reading that speech. The expectation is that you have practiced. All of this stuff here is like something I put in here for you so that you would have something for your colleague critiques. And I even say launching points for college critiques. So you could talk about their voice, and here are some aspects that you should practice and you could write about: their eye contact, their nonverbal language, their facial expressions, how they use their hands, right? They're standing up, their posture, the podium. Are they using their notes effectively? The man who had the HDMI cable from his laptop to the big screen behind him got so many comments. They're like, that was really an innovative way to utilize your notes for this class. People like it. And then the next class, what do you think happened? Half of them started doing it. So he really started to craze. It was super cool. Okay. And then you can also make sure you're thinking about optics, the perception of you. I use the word optics a lot. In other words, how do people see you? And so, and people who are political pundits use that a lot too, right? Preparedness. How prepared do you see? How confident do you appear? Is there a speaker audience connection? Are you using examples? If you're using an example about a speech about, I don't know, the economy, are you using examples of how students are struggling, for whatever reason? And, to pay for your textbooks, for gas money, things like that. Childcare. Pacing the presentation means, do you start out strong and do you end strong? Or do you have a really cool introduction and then the energy kind of dips down while the speech is going? Overall stage presence, effectiveness, use of pauses, because I do this a lot. You guys know I'm a fast talker, but whenever I'm making a point, when I give a speech to city council and the city staff, if I'm booking and all of a sudden I'm like, da, 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 and what this means, then you could see them literally look up, because a lot of them are furiously taking notes, right? Or I'll make it an uncomfortable pause so they know, oh, she's a fast talker and she just slowed down, and now there's that pause. I mean, I'll literally do it just like that. And then they're like, whoa, like we can tell Capoleta's a little upset with us today. So, and then here's voice. I love giving vocal critiques, your vocal variety, how you change your voice up a little bit. It's like, think of it like when you talk to your pet. If I go, hey, Dominic, hey, Dominic, hey, Dominic, two different ways, right? That's your vocal variety. Articulation. A really neat trick is you can get a pencil or a pen that's clean, put it in your mouth, I guess, and you can say, hello, my name is Professor AMC, right? And so that will make you articulate. That's what debaters used to do. Do I have a pencil or pen? Well, you got the idea. Don't choke on it, okay? Just like put it in, hello, my name is Professor Lisa Marie Cafoletta, and it makes me articulate. And I used to do that before I would do speed reading. I would read it like the rate of an auctioneer. And it also helps me, how I said auctioneer, right? It helps me enunciate. For the record, y'all, I had to go through speech therapy. I said my S's like this and my Z's, and I had to do a lot of speech therapy to be able to talk like this. And I love my students when they say, I went through speech therapy too, so I got it. Sometimes you just got to do extra work to make yourself excel. And I expect nothing less than excellence from you in this class, because I want you to be the best in the room, whether you're doing something for social engagement or something for your future employment opportunities. Vocal rate of speed. I just went over examples of that. Vocal projection. In other words, are you speaking? Put your hands on your tummy and speak. Because if I'm talking from my throat, I'm going to sound kind of like this. But if you're speaking from your diaphragm, your stomach, you'll be able to project. And my military veterans know that when Sarge started yelling away, he would be hoarse within 30 seconds, or she, if they did not speak from their diaphragm. Okay. Avoided vocal fillers or fluency breaks. That's when you say One time I did a little bit of stand-up comedy, y'all. I participated in the Austin's Funniest Comic, and I got there an hour early because I'm never late. The problem is I was in the wrong room, and I kept wondering, like, where's my name? Where's my name? Then I heard my name, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm in the wrong room. And so I noticed whenever I would get nervous when I would do stand-up comedy, I would do this. I've never done that as a speaker. I should have said, I'm the girl from the small town and I've been in the wrong room. I should have made fun of myself, but I was used to public policy speaking when I think I would be really good now. I don't go out in public. I really don't. But if there was not like a pandemic or whatever, I would like totally be all over doing stand-up comedy. I so would, but we all have our own little things. So I do ham radio. Right, here's an A. Here's an R. And you're not supposed to learn it by dots and dashes. You're supposed to learn it by the sound. Here's it on my big alley. Here's another one. This one. That's O. That's S. Okay. So students should rehearse outside of class prior to speaking day. When rehearsing the presentation, be sure to follow the guidelines from the textbook and the lecture. The speech begins the moment you stand up. So when I used to give speeches up at City Hall, that speech, the moment I used to wear these things called Fat Babies. They're these cool boots by a company, Ariat. and I was super skinny, and I'd tuck my little skinny girl pants and my little Ariat boots. The moment, and they had like these little bling, like rhinestone looking things on. They were really cool. And the moment those Ariats hit the pavement, I was already in speaking mode. One time I was in a debate. This guy walked up to me. This guy was just a BSer. Like, and I have no time for candidates like that when I'm like a serious candidate working for the people, right? And he would come up and try to like schmooze me. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm preparing for my speech right now. And I'd be on the front row, and I'm like a shark. I'm ready. And then later I apologized. I said, I'm so sorry. I said, when I have speech anxiety, and I'm preparing, and I'm trying to get focused and get in character. So I'm sorry if I appeared rude. And he's like, no problem, no problem. Well, it's funny. You could tell like the ones, and they didn't do well because they were sitting around schmoozing. They weren't reading the room, looking at their outlines, listening. I do a lot of recon, y'all. That's another reason why I get there early. When I used to do speeches in person, I haven't given a speech in person since the pandemic. But when I used to give speeches in person, I get there 30 minutes to an hour early, and they're probably thinking, look at that dork over there writing her speech. And I'm thinking, no, I'm eavesdropping to what y'all are saying. And I'm going to put it in my speech. Or people would come up to me, LMC, I want to tell you about something. I'm like, oh, I'm going to put that in my speech. So you're not a dork if you show up early. A dork in this way is a good thing. Same thing if you arrive early to class and you're working out the technology. 2 points. So if you say, hey, y'all, I'm here today to talk about why we should drink water for our health, I'm going to immediately count off 2 points. Because I don't want that. I want you to say, have you ever had cramping? This happened to me. And it stopped after I heard the why you should drink water speech from my student. Have you ever wondered why you get leg cramps? Well, maybe it's because you're not drinking enough water on a daily basis. See, so you want to make sure that you're starting off your speech with your attention getter, not some smooth short talk, schmoozy smart talk. We don't smooze when we're shark speakers. We come ready, and we know exactly what we're going to say with those sound bites. We're ready to rock and roll. Okay, well, there's no BS for a professional public speaker. That's why I have very low tolerance for people try to BS with the public when they're whatever they do. So be mindful. Do not be over reliant on your full sentence out. You want to have direct eye contact with, the Zoom, looking at the people on the Zoom or looking at the camera. If you have two different, like whatchamacallits, two different monitors, if you're you need to figure that out, because I really don't want I don't want you looking over here while you're giving a speech, because now you're reading your notes off, because I have a big Mac Pro, like a huge screen over here. That's why I'm looking over here. So I don't want you looking at this screen but here is where your camera is. You need to navigate that somehow, okay? Because especially with a virtual interview, I would work with that with my business communication students. I'm like, listen, so-and-so, you've been really good. I know you've got these two different cameras, but for this interview assignment and future virtual interviews, you need to be looking right into the camera and figure that out. Like, record yourself. Like, there's the camera. There's me looking at the Zoom shot, right? There's me looking over, like maybe to an end where if there was a student over there, and there's me looking right at my notes. Hand gestures should be natural for your public speaking style. Please avoid monotone delivery that you're sitting there reading it. The use of technology consideration should be worked out prior to the performance. Pacing of the speech. Don't do that. Give us your personality, y'all. That's why we're in here, to develop our public speaking style with a group of, this is a super cool class. In February, students, I'm sure you're going to be super cool too. So, but you've got students who want you to succeed. So buff out all of the scratches. I had a plumber come over, and he did all this work, and there was a clog in my sink at some point, and you know what? He scratched my sink. I let it go. I was a little miffed because I'm a clean freak, and I'm like, so my friend's like, don't worry about it. You could buff it out. I'm like, he shouldn't have done it to begin with. So anyway, should have been standing over and watching it, but I don't like to micromanage people. Like, you're a professional. Visual aids, so buff out your performance, okay? Like, make sure all of the kinks of whatever speech anxiety you have or fear of a camera. Some people, y'all, have no problem giving a speech into like a group of people. Other people have microphone fright. I've heard that from people who are like radio station people. Like, they're literally afraid of that microphone. Other people don't like cameras, but they don't mind speaking in public. So make those adaptations appropriately. A digital visual aid is required. Be sure to follow lectures and textbooks regarding guidelines for being audience-centered. So in other words, it should be something that can help us kind of understand. I'm going to make sure I have this one thing on here. Okay, let me just keep going and make sure there's really one certain important thing I want to talk about in here. So, oh yeah, it's right here. Visual aids of graphic nature must be pre-approved by the instructor during the conference. Students are strongly urged not to use these kinds of visual aids. I even haven't read. If there is a visual aid or a topic that may serve as a PTSD trigger, then we can work out how to craft a trigger warning. Failure to pre-approve a visual aid that needs a trigger warning. If you're giving a speech on how to make buckwheat banana bread, which is what I'm learning how to do. Remember, I don't know how to bake, and my mom, remember, baking is science, cooking is an art. Then if you have something graphic, I will stop that performance. I will unshare screen. I will take control of the screen because everybody has equal access in my class to the technology. I'm exceptionally egalitarian with the protocols you have on my Zoom, but I will immediately take over that Zoom. Do not do it. But that also means if you're giving the speech on how to bake the banana bread from buckwheat, gluten-free vegan recipe, I don't need to see your visual aid. I don't need to pre-approve it. It's only if there's something that's, and I would prefer you not to even broach that caveat, okay? Video should not be more than 30 seconds. If it's over, I will dock points. Make sure that you arrive on time and go through that. Now, a digital should be digital. It's important for you to rehearse it. Here are some examples. PowerPoint Prezi, Google Slides, 30-second video clip. Video should not exceed 30 seconds. Now, here's an important point. Notice I paused. It's important. I'm learning that, y'all. I used to never pause. When I was a debater, we would just we'd have 5 minutes. The other team would have 5-minute speaker, one guy. The first negative constructive, he would have 10 minutes to talk. And then the first negative rebuttal, he would have 5 minutes to talk. Little old me, I had 5 minutes to answer 15 minutes. So I had to talk fast. And these guys, if you pull up NDT debate right now, look up NDT, National Debate Tournament Debate, or CETA, Cross-Examination Debate Association, final round. You'll be like, whoa, those people talk fast. Now, I don't know what they're doing now. Maybe they're doing something complete. Maybe they're I don't know what they would be doing. But if they're doing something, if they're not speaking fast, it's not the debate I came from. So when I pause, and I learned it, how did I learned to pause for you guys from making scathing comments at city council meetings. Okay. So I'm a big, Native American artifact protector, historical preservationist for old homes that they're trying to knock down all of our homes and turn them into apartment complexes, and it's just and then it ends up flooding out a neighborhood. So I'm so when I get mad, right, when they want to do something near my neighborhood or someone else's neighborhood, I stick up for all the neighborhoods. I'm the only person. Sometimes y'all hear these stories of people from other cities. In fact, at Martindale, got a man from Martindale, who's an elected official, came up to me in HEB one time, and I shop at the low traffic hours, where nobody's in there, okay? And so he comes in there, and I have my big old cowboy hat on. He says, "Are you that lady? Are you LMC who gives those speeches every week?" And I'm like, "That's me." He says, "I love what you do." And apparently people in other towns will ask other people, "Who's that lady who comes up every week?" So I'm the lady. I'm known as the lady who shows up every week. And so what was I trying to say? So in other words, I'm slowing down to make the point. Visual aid should follow the rule of 6, which means you should have no more than 6 bulleted points on a slide. And each bulleted point should have no more than 6 words. Why do you think that's true? Why should your outline not be on that visual aid and just a key idea? If that, like a word cloud or a photo or a pie chart's good enough for me. That's right, because they're going to start reading it, okay? So 10 points for colleague critiques. So make sure that you give 5 pieces of feedback. They should be specific and offer insights. All students are required to provide written critiques of each speaker. Do not be working on your chemistry homework in my class. Do not be on the ticky-tacky looking at videos during my class. I will know, first of all. Y'all, I bust elected officials texting on the dais. I can tell. In fact, I called them out. One time I called one who was drunk on Zoom. So, like, that's my thing. I'm like the Obi-Wan, y'all. I'm the AI plagiarism, doing something else when you should be listening. Obi-Wan Kenobi, okay? I'm like, those are the droids I'm looking for, and you're doing it. My deductions -5 points per day. So if you're like, if you don't have a documented excuse, you're just like blowing off my class. It's gonna hit you at the end. These are some key resources. I'm gonna stop this video because it's been a long video, and because I want y'all to get a jump on this right now. But you've got that checklist. This should be a go-to on how to do the source citation procedure. You've got these textbook chapters. I also threw in the textbook chapters I wrote for a business communication class. It's an OER. This is all free to you as well. And this should also help you. I go in extensively about different types of research, about the Monroe motivated sequence organizational pattern, different ways to organize other speeches that may help you. Key lectures. Now, remember, I used to send out this prompt. Remember, I spent a long time where you were doing this prompt for y'all. I took everything and I took different handouts and tried to put them in this, and then I linked other specific handouts. I found the exact lectures you would need for just to do this. I really drilled it down. By now, you should have watched these videos. I'm going to put the lecture to this speech here, right here. I may make 1 or 2 corrections after reading through this or after answering questions because I'm such a perfectionist. I may not. I'm trying to learn. I saw this lady. She was her kid was on the autistic spectrum. I believe he was on like, and there's like a whole debate if you should use the word Asperger's or not, but whatever. But there was like something, it's like the string was there and he wanted to move the string, like just neaten it, like tighten it up a little bit. It was driving him crazy. And like the cup, he wanted the cup right there and she wouldn't let him move it. She's like, no. He's like, but I want the cup right there. It was like literally like an inch, but he wanted it right there. She wouldn't let him do it. And I thought, maybe I should do that to myself. Like, no, I'm going to leave it the way it is. Now, if it needs clarity, obviously I'll go back and fix it. And I may add the thing about adding your brain dump because I really want to see what you're doing, right? Like, that's important to me. Like, what is your process of doing that? Because I had a lot of students who really thought they were going to pull an AI speech on me because I'm going to know. I mean, and I'll tell you right now, I'm going to know if actually I'm not going to tell you how I'm going to know if you did IA. I'm not going to out all my secret rhetorical weaponry. Why would I do that? So here are some jump start. Can you tell I'm like, yay, I'm almost done with this. I really want to make those enchiladas. Y'all, my husband's parents were from Mexico way back in the day, many, many years ago. And I used to spend all my Sundays at East Austin hanging out with my pedestro. And I'm telling you what, and he didn't teach me how to do this. I learned this on my own. And now I'm starting, God rest his soul. We divorced, and now rest his soul. He's gone now. And I'm like, why did you not make enchiladas more often? Like, since you've been gone, I have perfected the best enchilada recipe. And by the way, I am the fastest tortilla spreader on this side of San Marcos. If there was a tortilla spreading race and I make vegan ones, I would win. I'll just tell you that right now. So I make really good enchiladas, and I get these organic corn tortillas that I use, and I've got habaneros. I like spicy food. So I'm like sitting there like, I want to make those enchiladas, and I want to make enough for like the next 2 days. So I'm like, I'm almost down the finish line. So here are some other important resources. These are some PowerPoints. Here are some examples. There's a bajillion of these, and I may clean this up a little bit because I've got a lot more from my students, but you can kind of go through these and just go through here and look at what I've got. I've got additional, and you can look at the date. Let's do last modified by me. Am I logged in? So you could tell like some of these most recent ones are right here. So just kind of go through that and look at those. So that's all I've got for you. And I appreciate you. I don't know how long this video is. Let's do a stop share. I hope I was sharing screen. How long have I been going, y'all? It doesn't even say how long I've been talking, but I've been talking a long time. Okay, you guys have a great weekend. Thank you for watching this video.